Chromatic Fire is a very underrated exotic armour piece for Warlocks in Destiny 2, which turn your kinetic weapon into something that can generate elemental explosions. Together with a combination of mods, subclass and weapons, I'm going to show you today how to put together a super fun Warlock PVE build that's going to boost your damage, but it's a whole lot of fun too. Well, if you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Well, the idea behind this build is to buff every aspect of the Warlock's weapons and create a build that dishes out explosions and mods that back up, so you're going to be creating Warmind cells as well as generating elemental wells, which are going to help you get your super back very often. I'm going to be using an underrated exotic armour piece in the Chromatic Fire, and this one can be bought from Xur at the weekend, or it can be found in random exotic engrams. If you don't have it, then you can grind out nightfalls to get exotic drops, or start your collection and buying something from Xur each week. You never know when an exotic is going to come back into fashion as the meta shifts and changes, with Bungie switching things up as seasons go by. So without further delay, let's jump into this explosive build. Well, first up, let's have a look at the armour, and for this build I'm going to be using Chromatic Fire. And checking out the perks, we got Crystalline Transistor, so when a light subclass is equipped, precision final blows with your kinetic weapon create an explosion in the element of your subclass. So this one is going to lean into the explosive capabilities of the build, improving our kinetic weapons and hopefully spawning Warmind cells with that solar splash damage, but more on that a little bit later on. Next up, let's check out the subclass, and for this build I'm going to be using the Attunement of Flame, which is Bottom Tree Dawnblade. So looking at the perks on this one, we've got Igniting Touch, so strike an enemy with this melee ability to burn them and cause them to explode when killed. We've got Fated for the Flame, so Daybreak projectiles seek targets as they travel and upon impact launch a streak of deadly flames. We'll get Everlasting Fire, so killing an enemy with Daybreak increases its duration, and Phoenix Dive, where you can activate while mid-air to quickly descend and restore your health. And when Daybreak is active, Descent causes explosive damage. So you can use pretty much any subclass, as Chromatic Fire works with everything. However, I think Solar works well here because there's plenty of explosive options to choose from that all work together with this build. Specifically here in the subclass, I'm going to be using Igniting Touch to cause enemies to explode when they die. Well, next up, let's have a look at the weapons. And first of all, I'm using Nightwatch, and this is a legendary kinetic scout rifle, and I'm using this one for range, and also because I have a role with Demolitionist, and that's going to help me get my grenades back much more. In the energy slot, I'm using Tiku's Divination. This is an exotic bow. So hip firing this weapon fires multiple tracking arrows and targets marked explode on death. This is a solar weapon, which is going to work nicely with the solar theme of the build. This is available on the paid and the free tracks of the season pass in Season of the Chosen, but if you haven't got this one could be swapped out for Sunshot. That is an exotic energy hand cannon. Finally, in the power slot, I'm using Code Dwello. This is a legendary rocket launcher. So I've got a roll with Chain Reaction, where each final blow with the weapon creates an elemental damage explosion. And if you don't have this one, then another heavy solar weapon with Chain Reaction would be absolutely fine. So all three of the weapons here have some explosive elements on them, so you're going to be dishing out the damage big time. Next up, let's have a look at the mods, and I'm going to be using a combination of all the combat mods here, so Charge with Light, Warmind cells and Elemental Wells. So first I'm using Elemental Charge, so you become Charged with Light by picking up an Elemental Well. If the Elemental Well type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of Charge with Light. I'm using Elemental Ordnance, so defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type. And it is best to use Vortex, Thermite or Pulse grenades to get the most out of the mod. I'm using Font of Wisdom, so picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy grants you a temporary significant increase to your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. And this gives you a plus 50 intellect boost for 30 seconds. This one's going to boost your super regeneration significantly. And it is worth noting that intellect cannot go above 100. I'm also using Argent Ordnance, so while Charged with Light, readying or firing a rocket launcher grants an increase in damage and reload speed. And damage a combatant with a rocket consumes 1 stack of Charge with Light. And finally, I'm using the Wrath of Rasputin, and this is a Warmind cell mod, So solar splash damage creates Warmind cells. So the elemental well mods are going to be creating wells and helping us get our super back nice and fast, meaning you can dish out plenty of damage. The more super you have, the more enemies you can kill quickly in activities like strikes, nightfalls and seasonal activities too. Argent Ordnance is going to boost my rocket damage, plus we're getting elemental explosions on there from chain reaction. Well, that is the build and how we put it together, but next up let's have a look at some gameplay examples. So what you want to do is run around getting explosive kills with all your weapons and create Warmind cells with the solar splash damage. Create elemental wells and get your super energy up nice and fast, and unleash your super for even more damage. Keep creating explosions and then repeat and have some fun. So if you don't have all the elements of the build, then just pick what works for you and what is available to you in your vault. I think the most important things here are Chromatic Fire, the exotic armour, Tiku's Divination, or maybe even Sunshot in the energy weapon slot, and then a power weapon with chain reaction. So if you've got something with Demolitionist, then great. If not, no worries. The mods can be mixed and matched in terms of what you have, but if you don't have the mods, then you can check out Banshee 44 daily at reset, or starting in Season 14, Ada 1 is going to be selling the combat mods. So these are the key to making Destiny PvE a whole lot more fun, so I would start collecting as many as possible and test them out. If you need a primer on how they work, check out my guides on the channel. Well, let me know what you think of the build down there in the comments, and let me know how you'd make it better, or which parts you've modified for the weapons and which mods you have. Well, that is it for this guide on a Chromatic Fire Warlock PVE build in Destiny 2, and as always, thank you so much for watching. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again. See you soon.
That should be enough to scare them off. For a short time, anyway.
They seem awfully determined. Any chance they'll go looking somewhere else?
Doubtful.